Welcome to my podcast, which is all about changing your business and money reality. This is your master money coach, Dr. Gaurav Deka, and you are money. My dear friends, how have you been? My last week was an amazing one. Why? Because we did the first live coaching call inside ATEPS, and so many people found answers to questions that they were looking for such a long time. My inbox was literally filled with, so many positive reviews, and that they experienced shifts right in the first call itself. And I had shared a lot of it on my Instagram as well. So if you haven't checked out, go to my Instagram and check all those stories out. And right after the first call, people started signing up, more clients. Some made a lot of progress with their revenue plans for the month. And some of us, including me, went into a sacred pause. It's a term that I define for a period of rest and restoration, because we firmly believe inside ATEPS that rest is what exactly creates space inside our nervous system. When you allow yourself pause and honor the pause by non-doing, and you stay inside that pause. You don't cheat the pause by doing something else after like an hour, or sleeping for 30 minutes and suddenly checking your phone and trying to figure out the next job that we need to do. So the pause has to be honored, wherein you stay inside the pause. And we really believe inside ATEPS that it is actually rest that creates expansion of your nervous system. So when you allow yourself that kind of pause and honor the pause by non-doing and staying inside it, cutting away all the shame and guilt that comes with resting, because we all have been culturally conditioned to feel like that when we don't do things or when we don't perform. So when we are able to honor our rest without these negative emotions sending us into an overdrive, we then create a lot of space for abundance to show up, because the nervous system is in a receiving state in that moment. We also develop space for new ideas, new things we thought didn't exist, probably even new business plans, and a lot of ease. So manifesting the money and experiencing joy in our business becomes way easier. And on that note, I want to give a huge shout out to two of my students/clients inside ATEPS. The first one is Namrata, and she writes inside the ATEPS portal that I announced to my broadcast list on WhatsApp, they follow me for free webinars, that I'm charging rupees 1,000 for my next webinar. One person asked for a discount and I refused. Another said that they only want to do free webinars. I said, okay. I even told my ex that they would have to pay, and they said, of course. So I'm receiving no's and also receiving yeses. And at the beginning, she writes that I know this is a small thing for those who are experienced, but I did something brave for the first time. Many, many, many kudos to you, Namrata. Something that you did not believe was possible is now possible, because you have taken the action and the effort to put it out in the world, right? Because that's what you want to experience, isn't it? Second is by Palak. And Palak writes that #celebration. On the live coaching call, I discussed about discovery call concern and whether people would want to come to a discovery call or not, and what if they back out. However, on Sunday and Monday, I took 5 discovery calls without hesitation. All of them paid and registered immediately. I just practiced my thought line before the calls. Once again, even in Palak's case, and again, many, many congratulations and kudos to you, Palak. What we can see here is something that she thought probably was not possible, because there were thoughts opposing thoughts to that, is now possible because she has just made the choice and acted to make the choice possible. In both their cases, initially they thought that certain things were not for them, like paid webinars may not be a reality for me right now, or doing discovery calls may not be a reality for me right now, because I don't know how people would judge me, or if people would get converted or not. But also, unless I do them and make the choice, I wouldn't know. So initially, whatever these two people experienced, discovering them may not have been possible, and they felt that these were the reasons that blocked their joy, that blocked their success. But both of them went on a journey, and they put themselves out to see what could be possible and what might show up. And the fact that they were willing to experience whatever could show up, and they discovered something wonderful about them and about what they could create with one single choice. And people have all kinds of questions on Instagram on me. I mean, with me, I recently did a Q&A on Instagram, and I asked people, what stops you from being a coach, or what stops you from practicing? And so many people wrote to me, what if I am not good enough? What if no one signs up? What if no one takes my offer and I'm not able to sell? What if, life coaching is banned in India? All kinds of what ifs, what ifs, what ifs. And I have just one thing for them, which is, how would you know until you make the choice? How would you know until you recognize what brings you joy, what brings you fulfillment, what makes you alive, and you make a choice towards it, right? How would you know that the opposite of that is also possible? That success is possible, that joy is possible, that it's possible for you to let go of your, heavy duty, toxic day job, if you are in a toxic day job, by the way. And it's possible for you to have an independent business of your own until you make that choice. We wouldn't know. Thinking about them is easy. Making a choice and acting towards them is the difficult part, right? Isn't it? So we all have to make that choice and move towards it by action, by blood, flesh, and guts. So yeah, that's it. And that officially brings me to the episode title of today's episode. And it's connected basically. It's called Discovering What Brings Us Joy. Okay. So after finishing the first coaching call of 8 eps, I decided to rest. And I and my partner, we went out and we were just browsing through Saket Select City Mall in Delhi. And then I told my partner that, after this whole year's preparation of 8 eps, it's now beginning to show up in my body. And after this massive accomplishment, I would mostly like to rest for the rest of the year until 2023. And I said, I'm going to allow my nervous system to expand and be open and relax. That's my resolution for October, November, and December. And then he said, well, like you always say, the resources to support that choice will show up. Probably you will encounter more and more things which will help you relax and regulate your nervous system. And then we were walking by and we went into the shop called Bath and Body. And we started looking for candles because I love candles, because they truly put me into a ventral state. And I love fragrances. And I also love a room that is dimly lit and is cold enough for me to use a blanket. And I love having a blanket or a soft woolly bed sheet over my legs to my waist. And it brings in a certain kind of safety for me. What we call as coziness is actually the nervous system feeling safe and contained. And so while browsing through all of these candles that I was thinking that, I'm going to lit in my bedroom, and then I'll retreat and put a blanket and read. So I came across this particular flavor, or you can say candle fragrance. And it was called Sundrenched Linen. And I smelled it. And when I did, I cannot tell you how it immediately regressed and transported me back to being a child in my childhood home. Roopnagar was the name of the place where we lived. And my mother would wash bed sheets and clothes in a bucket full of surf. And the foam of the surf would keep coming up. And I just spent hours with her in the washroom, simply standing behind, her and watching the foam coming up and filling up the bucket to the brim. Because that's what I liked the most doing as a child. And later in the afternoon, when the clothes would start drying, I just go to the veranda and wrap my head and my little body around the bed sheets. They feel so big against my body like large unending curtains of a theater. And I would smell them. They would smell of washing powder and cotton and the sun, and they would smell fresh and light. It would bring immediate, relief, and the feeling of love would rush into my body. As if I were to keep smelling them, eyes closed, and become that smell, embody that smell. It was the favorite thing from my childhood. And often when I talk about nervous system safety and receiving and opening of the body to expansion and developing capacity inside us, people think I'm talking about complicated processes of healing or therapy. But in my experience, what brings openness and safety to our nervous system is the feeling of being anchored in love. That we belong to someone and somewhere, and that feels like love. And often this anchoring is a result of discovering things from our childhood that we thought were lost. I'm going to repeat this. Often this anchoring is a result of discovering things from our childhood that we thought were lost. It's a process of grieving and then finding one fine day what we thought was gone and would never come back to us. For example, who would have thought wandering around Saket Mall in Delhi, I would find that candle and go back in less than a second to the deepest cavalcades of my childhood, which is where I had experienced the kind of joy that is not punctuated by an achievement, by a performance, or the fact that I made $2,000 today. It was pure joy of experience, of simply smelling those bed sheets, sun-drenched clean linen. For the longest time in my previous relationship, which was a difficult one because while my ex-partner promised that we could be together, being monogamous was not on the cards. I agreed painfully, I would say. I agreed declaring it to my ex-partner that yes, he could go and sleep with other men. And I just want to exempt myself from that because I couldn't imagine myself being with anyone else at that time, even for a fleeting moment, because I just felt that the love was so great and I was also young. And the love was so otherworldly that I just couldn't let go of it, nor could I negotiate what I wanted. Today, I understand that the physicality of that relationship brought such familiarity and such pleasure that it was almost like the high of me smelling those bed sheets. What brings to my understanding that our perception and experience of physical love, not sexual, but physical, where we learn and experience love by touch, by bonding, by holding each other's limbs and bodies, is exactly what provides expansion to the nervous system. And anything that reminds us and takes us back to it does the same job. It brings pure, non-performative, non-achievement centric joy. And it's fascinating how the things that truly bring us joy do not actually have a physical form. They are intangible, like the fragrance of that candle or of my mother's sun-drenched bed sheets or my ex-partner's presence. It was all a feeling and experience inside this body of mine. It's a tremendous realization to know that when you go out achieving a goal, probably a fully booked client list, making 10 lakh rupees a month, scoring the best in a program, taking a training, or seeing a client succeed. In all these external events, we are all looking for a feeling that exists inside our body. That feeling doesn't have a body, it doesn't have a physical structure, but it brings intense joy and happiness. And for the longest time in my career as a therapist, even though I was working with the best clients and using the modalities I loved working with, and also making great money, I should say, I was still chasing that feeling, that invisible thing, which would bring me joy. And until I discovered it, I didn't know that that is exactly what I was seeking for my nervous system, for the pleasure that my body wanted. And I think my discovery of my purpose in this world also came when I realized that I was involved and engaged in everything I love to do. And yet at the same time, yearned for something greater, something deeper, something more intimate, like the bed sheets in the veranda of my mother's house. And you know what it was? It was ATIPS, my business and money coaching program. It was one night that this name, ATIPS, started showing up in my head that brought feelings of deep joy and love. And in that moment, I did not discard it. Like I didn't pass through the shop without picking up that candle and dismissing it as some kind of childhood fantasy or something infantile. Similarly with ATIPS also, I allowed that voice to speak to me. And I had this knowing that I just need to bring this out in the world. I had no idea of the structure, of the form, or the skeleton, the body of this entity, of this program. Like I cannot ever offer an elevator speech to anyone on what ATIPS is. Of course, in my social media, I try to simplify by saying that it's a program that's going to help you make money, but it's so much more and so much beyond that. To be honest, ATIPS, much like the fragrance of the candle, doesn't have a physical form. It doesn't have a definite structure or body. But the kind of joy it brings in is home. It feels like home. It feels like being wrapped in those bed sheets of my mother out under the afternoon sky, toasted by the sun. And what I want you all to know, all my listeners here, the thing that I want you to know and hold is trust that feeling of joy. Anything that brings that feeling of joy, whether tangible, whether intangible, most times it'll be intangible, but trust that feeling of joy. Sometimes what you seek may not have a form. It may not have a structure. And also you may not know if it exists in the world. Like I did not know whether that candle that could bring me so much of joy existed in the world until I discovered it. So sometimes you may not know what you seek, whether it has a form, whether it has a name, whether it has a structure, whether it exists, but you have to trust that feeling that brings you joy. And go out in the discovery to find that out. I was willing to discover. And even though I was working with the best of clients, using the modalities I loved, making great money, having a lovely, group of people supporting my work, I still questioned, inquired into my own brain, and I allowed that energy from me, my body, my soul to move out in the world and pursue what I wanted, something deeper, something greater, something more intimate. And that's how I discovered ATIPS. It came to me when I was willing to discover something in the void. I was not afraid of the void. I walked into the void to see what possibly could show up. So I want you all to know that sometimes what you seek may not have a form, may not have a structure, and also you may not know if it exists in this world, because we live in a tangible world. The world is full of objects and physicality. But remember, everything that brings you joy is actually an inner feeling, or at least invokes a deep, intense inner feeling. So even if the thing you love may not have form, may not have structure, it's worth pursuing them. They are worth your time and energy. Because at the end of the day, you want to feel like the child wrapped up for hours, rolling in the bed sheets, laughing and smelling them. That is what we call as pure joy. Thank you so much, friends. Have a lovely week, and I'm going to meet you next week. See you then. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and are willing to change your business and money reality, head to my free coaching community on Facebook called You Are Money. Link is in the show notes. And And do not forget to leave a review on Spotify.com or Apple Podcast. Thank you so much.